What's up, everybody? This is your boy Uber Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga, here to bring you another video with no frills, just the analysis. And today I'm here to bring you a video response to, it goes by many names, Game Manic, the Insane Game Freak, Terrell, TIGF, all sorts of names this guy has. But anyway, I'm here to bring you a video response to a video that he did on the topic of homosexuality. I think the title of his video was Societal Discussions, Homosexuality. So needless to say, if you've looked at the time on this video, it's going to be quite long. At least I anticipate that given how many notes I've taken. And also, just a quick point about notes. I have a lot of freaking notes here, man. I got a shit ton of notes. So if you see me pause for like 5 to 10 seconds trying to figure out where I am, don't don't take it the wrong way. I'm just trying to look through my notes to see what point I'm on and which point I need to get to next. Alright, and also this video has to be long because it takes a lot of work to disinfect bullshit. I mean, it takes like 2 seconds to make a dumbass argument, but if it's dumb enough and if the issue is complicated enough, you'll have to spend a lot of time explaining to the person why their argument is bullshit. And this is just such a case. And initially, I wasn't going to do a video response because I just didn't feel like it. I just didn't want to because, like I said, it's just hard work disinfecting bullshit. But eventually, I came to the conclusion that I had to do it. He forced my hand, essentially. He forced my hand. So why am I doing this video response now? 2 points. First, a lot of the things that Terrell said were just ridiculous. And to be honest, quite offensive. And I don't know if he's a bigot or not, but he's suspicious. You know what I mean? He's suspicious. It's just like white people who say suspicious things like, I can't be racist because I have black friends. Whoa. I mean, that's not enough to say you're a bigot or a racist, but that's enough to go, seems a little bit suspicious to me. Now, I don't have access to Terrell's mind. I don't know anything about his motivations. I don't know anything about his intentions or what his actual beliefs are. So I'm not saying that he's a bigot because I have no real 100% proof of that quite yet. But he's very suspicious. He's very suspect. And honestly, the more I researched his video, because people have to understand, there's a difference between listening and transcribing something. When you listen to something, sometimes you can't go back to what a person said. You might miss some things that they said. You might not have caught all the nuances. But when you transcribe somebody's words, actually sit down and write what they say word for word, you have to pay attention because you have to write out every single word. So you catch more and more of what they were saying. And the more I transcribed what Terrell was saying, the more convinced I became that he's probably a bigot. Again, I cannot say for sure, but it's pretty suspicious, the things that he says. And of course, I'll give multiple examples of this as I go throughout this video response. Second reason why I had to make a video response. Uh, Terrell's video was not really a societal discussion. And at one point, he actually mentions that he should probably not have named it a societal discussion, but instead, it was just a rant. And to be honest, that's true. I mean, what he was saying was at times incoherent. He was rambling, he was ranting, he was screaming. It was just a bunch of bullshit, honestly. I mean, like I said, he even admits this at one point. I mean, he engages in poor reasoning. He makes factually inaccurate statements on multiple topics, not just homosexuality. He seems to have a misunderstanding of sexual orientation, sexual expression, and gender identity, and the ways those three things relate to each other. He gave poor examples, engaged in stereotyping, had a lack of evidence for his claims. And almost all of what he said was just opinion. And let me just quickly talk about opinion. Everyone is, of course, entitled to their own opinion, but nobody is entitled to their own facts. Just because you're entitled to your own opinion also doesn't mean that I have to agree with your opinion. And to be honest, I don't give a fuck about your opinion. And I mean that as a general statement. When I'm a reviewer, I don't give a shit about your opinion. And this goes for Terrell too. Hope he doesn't take this personally, but I don't give a fuck about his opinion. Don't give a shit. Why is that? Because I care about your argument. Anybody can have an opinion. I don't give a shit about your opinion. I care about your arguments. Let me give you an example of what I mean. You can have an opinion that evolution isn't true. You can have that opinion. Nobody cares. Most people wouldn't respect that opinion. Well, most educated and intelligent people wouldn't respect that opinion, but you can have that opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't give a fuck about that opinion. Now, if you want to have a discussion about evolution, that's something completely different. Because if you're willing to accept basic rules of reasoning, of evidence, then we can have a discussion. Because when you make a claim, you actually have to back it up with reasoning and evidence. You don't have to do that with an opinion. You can have an opinion all you want to. Shit, you can have an opinion that the sky is orange. I wouldn't give a fuck. But if you want to try and convince me, if you want to have a discussion, then you need more than just what you believe. You need evidence for your beliefs, and you need to have clear reasoning behind why you believe what you believe. As far as I'm concerned, Terrell was just throwing his opinions back and forth, which, like I said, I don't give a shit about. So these are the two reasons why I felt compelled to do a video response and to sort of explain what a real discussion is. So, and this is all in response to Terrell's first video, because he did a second follow-up video where he tried to explain a couple of things. I didn't even watch that. I watched like 5 minutes of it, then turned the shit off because I didn't really care. But his first video. So this is in response only into his first video. And the bullshit starts off pretty early. So at 3 minutes and 3 seconds into that video, this is what Terrell said. I don't understand the obsession with people being angry at people's life choices. I mean, granted, you don't have to agree with them. I'm just saying, what's the big deal with arguing against it? It's not hurting you in any way. It's not like what they do in their house, in their room, doesn't bother you in any way. So far, so good. Not everything he just said was 100% kosher, but relatively speaking, it was reasonable. And just for a point of clarification, let me explain what I mean by not completely 100% kosher. Being an LBGT person is not a life choice. I mean, that's just a fact of the matter. Sexual orientation is not a life choice. And for any heterosexual people who disagree with that, I want you to tell me in the comment section below when you decided you were heterosexual. When did you decide to be heterosexual? When did you make that life decision? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't say to yourself, wow, I can be homosexual or I can be heterosexual. Tough decision. I think I'll pick heterosexual. I'm pretty sure that that your thought process didn't look like that. That you didn't just choose to be heterosexual. Your sexual orientation just was what it was. It is what it is. And that's just the way it is. And this is not my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. These are pretty much the facts. All the available scientific research shows that a person's sexual orientation is a function of a complex set of interacting variables. In other words, it don't got shit to do with how you feel or what you decide. That just ain't how it is. It's a function of brain physiology, prenatal hormone development, genetics, and epigenetics. For those of you who don't know what epigenetics is, genetics is just your genes, what you have the genes for. Like you might have the gene to be tall or gene to be short or whatever. Epigenetics deals with the expression of those genes and the regulation of those genes. So how those genes get expressed and at what point in your life they get expressed and in response to what environmental selective pressures. Because you can have a gene to be tall all you want. If you have malnutrition, you ain't going to be tall. You're going to have whole bunch of problems. That's epigenetics. And like I said, this is not my opinion. These are just the scientific facts. So that's just the way it is. And science also shows that possibly another contributing factor to sexual orientation is the environment. However, when scientists use the word environment, they don't mean what you think they mean. They mean a very specific definition. So environment does not mean your life experiences. That's not what scientists mean by environments. They mean environments as in outside of the human body. So when a fetus is inside the mother's womb, the fetal environment is an environment. That ain't got shit to do with the life experiences of the fetus. The hormones that are inside the amniotic fluid while you're inside the amniotic sac, that is the environment in which the fetus develops, but that has nothing to do with the fetus's life experiences. So that's not what scientists mean when they use the word environment. And as of yet, there is no evidence that childhood experiences or childhood development or parenting plays any role in the formation of sexual orientation. That's just the facts, ladies and gentlemen, as they are. Child sexual abuse has nothing to do with homosexuality. Absent fathers doesn't have shit to do with homosexuality. Being raised by homosexuals doesn't have anything to do with your sexual orientation, about whether or not you're more likely to become a homosexual. None of those things matters. That's just the scientific facts as they are. Study after study after study, and meta studies, studies of studies. Scientists even have these. They all show conclusively that none of these things I just listed have anything to do with the development of sexual orientation. For example, studies have continually shown that the overwhelming majority of children raised by homosexual couples turn out to be heterosexual. So being raised by homosexuals doesn't have anything to do with becoming a homosexual. Nothing at all. In other words, the sexual orientation of your parents has no impact on the development of your sexual orientation. That's just a point of clarification that I needed to make before I proceed any further. Now, let's continue with what Terrell says. Remember, this is right around 3 minutes and 3 seconds into the video. He goes on to say this. But I'm going to talk about you entitled homosexual people and you contradicting homosexual people. Like I said, not enough to say he's a bigot, but that's kind of suspicious. This is where he starts to go off the rails. First, doesn't this sound like a contradiction or sort of bait and switch? First, he says we shouldn't obsess about the actions of other people if they don't affect or harm us. But then he says, I have a problem with people whose actions don't affect or harm me. Entitled homosexual people? Contradicting homosexual people? Now I'm going to make a 20-minute video and rant about all the things that people do that don't affect me or harm me in any way. That's a contradiction. It's a sort of bait and switch tactic where people preface bullshit with something that sounds reasonable in order to draw you in. It's pretty much exactly what he just did. Second, what the fuck is a contradicting homosexual person? What the hell does that even mean? Imagine if I made a video called Societal Discussions, Heterosexuality. And I started off the video by saying, I'm going to talk about you contradicting heterosexual people. Your first response would be and should be, the fuck does that mean? What is a contradicting heterosexual person? What does being contradictory have to do with being heterosexual? It's the same thing here in this case. What does being even if I assume I knew what a contradictory person was, what the hell would that have to do with being homosexual? As far as I can tell, absolutely nothing. Third, going back to my first point, why should, again, even if I knew what a contradictory homosexual person was, why should I give a fuck? After all, Terrell just said we shouldn't obsess over the actions of people that don't affect us or harm us in any way. Well, if that's true, then why should I give a fuck about contradictory homosexual people? Why should I care? Even if they did contradict themselves, their actions doesn't harm me or affect me in any way. So it doesn't make any sense. So therefore, Terrell not only starts off the video incoherently, but he's contradicting himself on top of it. Now we skip to 4 minutes and 18 seconds into the video. This is what he says. Wait, why is the gay guy wearing the pink McDonald's shirt? This is in relation to the anecdote he gave where he talked about how he went to McDonald's and the gay guy was wearing the pink McDonald's uniform. So this is what he says. Wait, why is the gay guy wearing the pink McDonald's shirt? But the girl that we just paid her the money for was wearing a red shirt. I'm transcribing this verbatim. That's why I didn't even fix his grammar. Why is the gay dude has his own specific shirt? Then I realized they're doing this whole gay exception thing because it's a hot button issue right now. And if some shit were to go down in court cases and they were to get sued, then apparently they'd be more likely to lose because of it being a hot button issue. Obviously, this is unequivocal bullshit. I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. First, Terrell admits that the gay guy at McDonald's was wearing a McDonald's shirt, right? He explicitly says the guy was wearing a pink McDonald's shirt. It's pink. This is true. But it's also a McDonald's shirt, right? Why the fuck does the color matter? I mean, is he really making a video about homosexuality where he complains about a McDonald's worker wearing a particular color of a McDonald's uniform? The hell? Why does that make any sense, and why should I care? If the guy was wearing a McDonald's shirt, then it wasn't a gay exception. He was wearing the uniform of the company at which he worked. By Terrell's own admission, his problem wasn't with the guy having some sort of work attire exception. His problem was that the uniform was pink. How does he know that the employer at that McDonald's didn't allow that guy to wear a pink McDonald's uniform shirt? Maybe it was breast cancer awareness day. Maybe it was breast cancer awareness month. And maybe he had the option to wear a pink shirt. Maybe since he liked pink, he was the only one to choose that option. Or maybe McDonald's workers always have the option to wear pink uniforms, but only he decides to wear pink. You see what I'm saying? That has absolutely nothing to do with a gay exception because the guy is actually wearing the uniform of the company at which he works. Second, again, Terrell has no evidence that the gay guy was allowed to wear the pink shirt as a special exception. Terrell just assumed this was the case because he saw that no one else except the gay guy was wearing a pink shirt. This means that Terrell has pretty much jumped to an unwarranted conclusion without any evidence whatsoever. Again, poor reasoning. Just because no one else is wearing the shirt, you can't therefore conclude that this guy, because he was a homosexual, was somehow given a special exception. Poor reasoning. Third, Terrell has just made a ridiculous, factually inaccurate claim. Court cases in America are adjudicated based on merit. It doesn't matter if the issue being decided is a hot button issue or not. In the USA, business employers have the ability to regulate the attire of their employees. Full stop, period, end of thought, end of sentence, that's the end of it. So if McDonald's didn't want people, homosexual people, wearing pink shirts, nobody can sue them for it, Terrell. That's just the way it is in America. They can try to sue, but they'll simply be laughed out of court. Nobody has the right in America to wear anything they want at work. And they can't sue because they don't have the ability to wear whatever they want at work. It's just not how it goes. But then Terrell continues, starting at minute 4:49 into the video. This is what he says. And this is where the BS kind of comes in. I don't understand why gay people feel like they're entitled to being treated a certain way when it comes to work. Just quickly to point something out. That's a blatant stereotype of gay people or homosexual people. Without any sort of qualification, Terrell just asserts that, that gay people think they're entitled to wear whatever they want. So just because you have one bullshit example, now you get to generalize that all homosexual people want special exceptions for work attire. Clearly, that's a logical fallacy known as a hasty generalization. You can't be presented with one case and then based on that case extrapolate and make a generalization about all cases. It's clearly a logical fallacy. Now, listen to the rest of this rant about gay people in work uniforms. This starts at minute 458. This is what he says. What I mean by that is, if you like to wear dresses and like hot shirts and shit, that's whatever. But at work, you need to wear a fucking uniform. You should not have a fucking special exception because you're gay. Especially when everybody else is following the goddamn code. But for some reason, because you're gay, that entitles you to have the ability to wear whatever the fuck you want. And I've seen this in other places too, where it's like, you gay, so obviously you get to wear earrings and shit, or get to wear pink versions of the damn uniform. And this is what makes gay people come off condescending, because it's like, what? You're too good to wear fucking normal clothes? Now, I understand that this shit... I can't... I can't even read this shit with a straight face. I know this sounds crazy, but I guarantee you, I am quoting this shit verbatim. This is what he said. The screed continues after this. I mean, he's not even done after this, what I just quoted. The screed continues, but obviously you get the point. Gay people think they can wear whatever they want at work. Gay people are condescending because they think they're too good for normal clothes. And it goes on and on and on and on. Just a bunch of stereotyping bullshit. First, if you're wearing a pink version of the uniform, you're still wearing the goddamn uniform, Terrell. I mean, it's like he doesn't seem to get this. Just because you wear a different color version of the uniform doesn't negate the fact that you are indeed wearing the uniform. Number two, Terrell has no evidence that what he says is true. None whatsoever. All he's given us is one bullshit example where he admits that the McDonald's employee was wearing a McDonald's uniform. And other than that, all he has given us are assurances that he's seen this before. And we're just supposed to take it on faith that this is the case, that homosexuals just act entitled in this way. So based on one erroneous example and some anecdotal evidence, he can get to generalize that gay people are condescending because they don't want to wear normal clothes. This is fucking ridiculous. Third, doesn't this shit sound strange to you? I mean, it just sounds weird. I mean, I've quoted Terrell verbatim and in context. I've taken whole unaltered sections of what he stated on video. You can go and pull up the video right beside mine, and you can follow along. He says this, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when Terrell says it in his video, it doesn't seem that bad, does it? It was just Terrell rambling and ranting on about how he feels about homosexual people. Doesn't sound that bad, does it? But when I read it in a neutral context, it starts to sound really fucking awful. Because all I'm doing is reading what he said. And if you didn't know who Terrell was, and you weren't familiar with him, you never watched his videos, and I just read these sections, you would literally think it came from, you would say to yourself, the person saying this must be a homophobe. They've got to be a bigot. It's amazing how when someone says something in one context, it seems completely okay. But when you read it or say it in a neutral context, you can really start to see how bigoted and ridiculous it sounds. And just so people don't think that he's really stereotyping, which is clearly what Terrell is doing at this point, he tries to cover his tracks. This starts at minute 6 minutes and 4 seconds into the video. This is what Terrell says. And as I said, it's not just gay people. I mean, black people do this shit all the time. You know how like black people like to blame the white man for every problem they have? This shit gets annoying too. At this point, Terrell is just incoherent. What is the video about? Is he talking about homosexuality, or is he talking about people who like to get over on other people? What does homosexuality have to do with wearing different colored versions of work uniforms? What does homosexuality have to do with getting over on people? Are there some homosexual people who try to get over on other people? Yes. But do they do this because they're homosexual? No. They do it because they're jackasses, not because they're gay or homosexual. So why does Terrell feel the need to single out gay people and then stereotype them? Just liberally stereotype them. Doesn't make any sense. Now let's go on to Terrell's third argument, or third point, because he's not making any arguments here. And remember, this is direct quotes straight from Terrell's mouth. At 7 minutes and 4 seconds into the video, this is what Terrell says. This is the other problem I have with gay people. Why is it that overly gay people for some reason choose to act the opposite of their gender? As if acting the opposite of what your gender is makes you gay. For example, for some reason, a lot of gay dudes act like chicks. Isn't that kind of undermining the women? Especially because of that whole lesser than man connotation that's floating around in the background, you know? If you're lesser than man, it's like I'm a man, but I'm gay. But considering the whole how people make fun of each other by calling each other gay, and then for a gay guy, and usually when they call each other gay, that's usually for saying something a woman would say or something that has a connotation of being feminine more than masculine. So, how does being a gay man make you more feminine? Because it seems like, and I'm not saying every gay person, I'm just saying for some reason, gay people, yes, yes, he really did contradict himself within the space of one sentence. Let me read that again for people who didn't catch that. So, how does being a gay man make you more feminine? Because it just seems like, and I'm not saying every gay person, I'm just saying for some reason, gay people feel the need to act overly, or at least the man, overly feminine. Or for women, overly masculine for no goddamn reason. The rant continues for quite some time, but you get the point. First, who is Terrell to decide that homosexuals act the opposite of their gender for no goddamn reason? What evidence does he have to support any of this? What evidence does he have to support that his claim is true? Does he believe that gay people just arbitrarily decide to act the opposite of their gender? I mean, I mean, I don't want to turn this into rocket science, but I mean, it can't be that homosexuals just feel comfortable acting this way. Oh no, it can't be that. They just have to be arbitrarily acting this way for no goddamn reason. Really? And because he just asserts that this is the case, therefore he must be correct, right? No. And this is another important point that I want to make. The reason why some gay men and some lesbian women act the opposite of their gender is because sexual orientation and gender identity are not identical. Let me say that again for some people who might be confused. The reason why some gay men and some lesbian women act the opposite of their gender is because sexual orientation and gender identity are not identical, but they are interrelated. In other words, society tells us that if you're normal, you're heterosexual. And if you're normal and heterosexual, then you're supposed to act your gender. That's just the way it is. However, homosexuals recognize that this culturally imposed mechanism to ensure heterosexuality and heterosociality is not absolute. There's no real reason why a man has to act like a man and a woman has to act like a woman. Those gender identity categories are not absolute. There's no reason why we ought to act this way. Heterosexuality and heterosociality are designed to maintain a particular set of gender relations between men and women, preferably heterosexual gender, and sexual relations. That's why certain behaviors are socially constructed as masculine and some are socially constructed as feminine. And this is how you can tell that homophobia and sexism are very closely related to each other. Because it's considered extremely taboo for a man to act feminine and for women to act masculine. Because if they don't, then they start to obscure these culturally defined boundaries of gender identity and sexual orientation. In women's and gender studies, this has a particular name. It's called the heterosexual matrix. That's exactly what this is called in women's and gender studies. I've studied this extensively in school. Stuff just like what the bullshit Terrell is saying. Second, Terrell doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's completely ignorant of this topic. What is his point? That it's okay to be homosexual as long as you don't act the opposite of your gender? I mean, we'll tolerate homosexual people, but you gotta make sure you're not too homosexual, you know what I mean? Why? Because Terrell says so, and why the fuck should we listen to him? Terrell doesn't give us a legitimate reason for why he believes what he believes. He doesn't even answer why homosexuals acting the opposite of their gender is annoying or bad. He just assures us that this is the case, and he just assumes that we'll agree with him. The fuck? You need more than that, bro. Third, the idea that gay men acting like women demean women is bullshit. The idea that gay men who use the term gay towards each other demeans women or other gay people is also equally bullshit. No, Terrell, it's not the gay guys who do this, who demean women. It's primarily heterosexual males who do this. Excuse me. That's where the stupid ass phrases no homo and pause comes from. Heterosexual males do that. The people who demean women are almost always heterosexual men in heterosocial contexts who don't want to appear to be feminine or gay. Therefore, they say stupid shit like this. And this is a real life example. This happened to me one time where I was with a group of guys and we were just talking and one of the guys said, I'm thirsty. I need some liquid. No homo. Like, what the fuck? Why do you feel the need to say that? You're thirsty, you need some liquid. Full stop. That's okay. It's heterosexual males who do shit like that because they don't want to appear to engage in a taboo behavior of acting the opposite of their gender. Men do that. And notice, there's no female equivalent of no homo or pause. Females almost never do this. They don't. Man, I can't even think of an example because it really doesn't happen. I mean, just almost never the case that females do stuff like this. Moreover, people who use what some would consider to be a slur can use that word, that slur, if they're part of the group to which that slur refers. The word gay is frequently used as a slur by heterosexuals. So it's okay if homosexuals use that. They're a part of the group who's being targeted by the slur. In fact, South Park had a whole episode of deconstructing language, deconstructing the word gay, and deconstructing linguistic and social context in the context in which language can be used and who has the authority or capacity to use certain words in particular linguistic and social context. South Park had a whole episode, phenomenal episode on this. And why is this the case? Because we understand that the meaning of words can change depending on the linguistic and or social context in which that word is used. That's why some women playfully refer to each other as bitches. Doesn't mean that they really think that they're bitches and that they're trying to demean each other. Obviously, that's not what they mean. And it's the same reason why African Americans can use the word nigga. Because the linguistic context in which we use it is not the same as a KKK member. So, I mean, to all you dumbasses out there who don't like the word nigga and try to say, why can't I use the word nigga? I mean, black people use the... No, you can't use the word nigga. No, because you don't have the authority. You don't have the linguistic or social authority to use that word. As Michael Eric Dyson has said, we've hijacked it. We've made it cooler. It's now ours. It's ours now. your your position of privilege precludes you from using that word in this particular linguistic context. That's just the fucking way it is. And that's the way it is with gay people as well. So no, Terrell, gay men don't demean each other or women when they playfully insult each other as being gay. Because after all, they really are fucking gay. This is the fourth reason. Or at least my fourth point to Terrell's argument. Oh, not argument, rant. Terrell shouldn't have named his video Societal Discussions Homosexuality. And I think it's pretty evident why. And I'm not even halfway through with this video yet, and you can start to see why. He should have named it My Retarded Problems with Homosexual People. That's what he should have fucking named it. Because that's honestly what this is. It's just a dumbass rant. It's incoherent, it's rambling, poor reasoning, no evidence. It's just really bad. So far, nothing he said has any merit, except the very first words of the video on the topic. People should not obsess over the actions of other people who don't affect them or harm them in any way. That's the most reasonable thing he said, and that's the only reasonable thing he said in this video so far. Terrell's problem, his major problem, is that he doesn't understand how gender identity and sexual orientation are interrelated. He seems to think that gay people think they're gay because they act the opposite of their gender. Which, when you think about it, can't be true. That's retarded. Gay people don't think they're gay. They know they're gay because of their sexual and romantic attraction to people of the same gender. Let me make this clear. This is a very important point in the video. Gay people don't think they're gay because they act the opposite of their gender. Rather, they sometimes act the opposite of their gender because they're gay. And they therefore don't recognize culturally imposed dichotomies between masculine and feminine behaviors. It's that goddamn simple. Therefore, Terrell has gotten things exactly backwards. But this is what you would expect from somebody who's completely ignorant of the topic at hand. So it's no surprise. Also, let me clarify something before people take that the wrong way. Terrell is ignorant. I'm not backing off of that point. But a lot of people don't seem to understand what it means to be ignorant. When I say that a person is ignorant, I mean it in its dictionary definition. You simply lack knowledge about a specific topic, or lack knowledge to some extent in some area. So Terrell qualifies as ignorant. That doesn't mean he's stupid. I don't think Terrell is stupid. I mean, a lot of the times he makes videos, he makes very incisive, very good points. It's just that he missed the mark on this video. It's really bad. And this bullshit continues. At 9 minutes and 28 seconds into the video, this is what Terrell says. And again, quoting him verbatim. As I said, when it comes to gay people, to me it just comes off as condescending. It's like, you think people have a problem with gay people because you're gay, because you want to sleep with women and you're a woman, or you want to sleep with a man and you're a man. It has nothing to do with that. What? Hold on. Did Terrell really just say that people don't have a problem with gay people because they're gay? What kind of delusion is he living under? Man, this is just, this is just empirically denied. When I used to be a debater in high school, when someone would make a factually inaccurate statement, we had a very flippant way of just getting rid of the statement. We just say, no, you're empirically denied. In other words, the facts of the world, the facts of reality don't bear out your claim. It's just not fucking true. It's just not true at all. But let's continue. Again, like I said before, this is right around 9 minutes and 28 seconds into the video. This is what Terrell says, quoting him verbatim. But it's the fact that you act the opposite of your gender. which makes me think more of you guys being half-ass transsexuals or half-ass transgendered people than actual gay people. Like, I feel like you're lazy transsexuals. It's fucking bad. This is real bad. Again, I don't have access to Terrell's mind, so I can't know for a fact that he's a bigot. But this is really fucking suspicious, man. This is really, really suspicious. And when I read this, I know some of you guys, your eyebrows may have raised. And you may have said, what the fuck is he talking about? What is he saying? What Terrell is saying is retarded. But I assure you, he said it. He said gay people who act the opposite of their gender are lazy transsexuals. But he doesn't stop there. The screed continues. Again, this is all around 9 minutes and 28 seconds. It's amazing how much bullshit he was able to pack in one video. It really is. He should get a Nobel Prize for this shit. Some kind of award. This is what he says, verbatim. People who want to be the other gender, but you're too lazy or too poor or too broke or just too scared to get surgery to become the other gender. At least I can respect the niggas who went out there and got the surgery and said, I feel like a woman inside, so I'm going to make myself look like a woman on the outside. I can respect that. You people are on this stupid ass, I need to act the opposite of my gender because I'm gay. The fuck? So according to Terrell, bigotry, homophobia, and discrimination don't exist because people have a problem with gay people. Bigotry, discrimination, and homophobia exist because you act the opposite of your gender. Homosexual people, we figured out the solution to all the bigotry, homophobia, and discrimination in the world. Just stop acting like the other gender. And according to Terrell, everything will be okay. Obviously, this is bullshit. This reminds me of racist people who say stuff like, I don't hate black people because they're black. I hate black people because of the way they act, because they're ghetto and they're gangster and they're hood rats. Like I said, again, like I can't be 100% sure that Terrell is a bigot, but this shit is really suspicious. It sounds as familiar as all the other racist and sexist bullshit you ever heard in your life. It's exactly what it sounds like. First, again, he's empirically denied. It's just not true. If what he's saying is true, why are people trying to stop all homosexuals from getting married? Why are they trying to take away these people's constitutionally protected rights? And this is another important point. So, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention, because it's actually sad that some Americans don't even read the Constitution and don't even know their own history or the history of the Constitution or some of the decisions that the Supreme Court has rendered. So pay attention. The Supreme Court of the United States of America has repeatedly affirmed in case after case after case, starting in 1888 and going all the way up to 2014. So 100 and what? 26 years? 126 years of Supreme Court judicial precedent. They've affirmed in case after case after case that marriage is not a privilege in America, that marriage is a fundamental civil right guaranteed and protected by the Constitution of the United States of America, particularly Amendment 5 and Amendment 14, the due process clause and equal protection clause of the United States Constitution. And if you want, I can list some cases and provide some links for you in the description. Maynard versus Hill, Meyer versus Nebraska, Griswold versus Connecticut, Loving versus Virginia. And Loving versus Virginia is a significant case. This is a case that everybody should be familiar with. Loving versus Virginia, which I believe was decided by the Supreme Court in 1967, was the case that struck down anti-miscegenation laws. Miscegenation is basically marriage between people of different races. So that was the Supreme Court case that decided that there couldn't be bans on interracial marriage. Why? Because marriage is a fundamental civil right guaranteed and protected by the Constitution of the United States of America, and people have the ability to marry anybody they want. That's Loving versus Virginia. I don't understand. So when people come up with this dumbass argument about marriage isn't in the Constitution and marriage is a privilege, it's not a right, they're wrong. And the Supreme Court has said they're wrong at least 14 or 15 different times over the span of 126 years. You're just fucking wrong. You got to deal with that. Therefore, marriage is a fundamental civil right protected by the Constitution, and denying it to homosexuals is unconstitutional as well as unethical. That's the essence. Trying to take away somebody's constitutionally protected rights is the essence of bigotry and discrimination. However, Terrell would have us believe that not only are homosexuals not only are homosexuals not discriminated against because they're not gay, but this is what he also says. This is the implication of his other of the other thing he said. He never considers the possibility that gay people who act this way are comfortable. Like I said before, he just never considers this possibility. According to Terrell, who's I don't know where I don't know where he got his sociology degree. Maybe off the back of a fucking cereal box. Terrell, the sociologist, tells us it's because they're lazy transsexuals. What evidence does Terrell have to suggest that this is true? Absolutely none. Doesn't have any evidence to suggest that this is true. You telling me that just because somebody decides to take on the character traits of another gender, that all of a sudden means that they're transgendered or transsexual? That's bullshit. And Terrell seems to understand that this is bullshit because listen to how he contradicts himself. And for this, you go back in the video. Go back to 6 minutes and 29 seconds into the video. This is what Terrell says. People don't understand that homosexuality only deals with, the types of relationships you choose to have with certain genders of people. Well, if homosexuality is about sexual orientation, then why compare homosexuals to transsexuals at all? Just because you have some behavioral traits of one gender doesn't mean you want to be that other gender. The fuck? This is just basic reasoning. Just because someone has certain character traits of another gender doesn't mean they want to be that other gender. Does he really not understand this? Transsexuality is not a sexual orientation. You can't compare transsexuals and homosexuals. One is about gender identity, one is about sexual orientation. Terrell seems to understand this, but then turns around and contradicts himself. Now let's get to Terrell's fourth problem with homosexuals. And this starts at 10 minutes and 36 seconds into the video. Again, I'm quoting him verbatim. This is what he says. That's the other thing that annoys the fuck out of me, is that when a person, especially you guys in high school who don't really know your sexual orientation, because that's the other thing about homosexuality, it's become more of a fad than a thing. Like, people just act gay because it seems the thing to do. Obviously, Terrell has no evidence to support the idea that homosexuality has become a fad. Again, he's just spouting bullshit. That's number one. Number two, scientific research actually shows that the formation of sexual orientation starts very early in childhood, around 5 years old. At least as early as 5 years old. And notions of gender identity can form even earlier than that. There have even been reported cases of it forming as early as 3 or 4 years old. That's the scientific research, ladies and gentlemen. That's not my opinion. That's not what I believe. That's not some bullshit I just made up. Those are the facts. That's what the scientific research suggests. Therefore, Terrell is factually incorrect to claim high school children don't know the sexual orientation. I don't know what high school that nigga went to, but the high school I went to, we, if you people knew what their sexual orientation was. I was chasing the women. Well, maybe not the women because I was only 14, but I was chasing the chicks at 14. I knew what my sexual orientation was when I was in high school, and a lot of my other guy friends, they knew as well. I don't know what high school Terrell went to. Third, Terrell grew up in fucking Georgia. I can't remember if it was Georgia or Alabama, but for the purposes of this argument, it doesn't make a difference. He grew up in fucking Georgia. That's not the most diverse place to grow up. To put it mildly, to make a mild understatement. So on what grounds does Terrell make his assertions? Based on some high school kids who he went to school with in fucking Georgia? Are high school kids in Georgia now all of a sudden representative of the high school kids in America or homosexuals in general? Of course not. But Terrell continues. Again, quoting him verbatim. Everybody thinks they're gay for the dumbest reasons nowadays. Oh man, I lift up my leg when I picked up this hat. I'm gay. What irks me though is like you teenagers. You just change from being straight to gay with the drop of a hat. All of a sudden your entire personality changes. Like, for example, you can't hang out with your male friends anymore because you're gay. You can't fucking go out shopping anymore because you're gay. This is the serious face, nigga. This is the serious face. That's the serious face. Really? This is nothing but more stereotypes about homosexuals. This is just ridiculous how he's just stereotyping these people. People think they're gay for dumb reasons. When people come out as gay, their whole personality changes. They stop hanging out with their male friends. They stop going shopping. Again, what? Terrell's not a fucking sociologist. How does he know any of this shit is true? He has no evidence to support anything he's saying in this video. And his opinions are based on what? The fucking gay people in Georgia? That's the basis for his conclusions? Did he consider that once people come out as gay in Georgia, that they might no longer be welcome, that they would face social rejection, that people who claimed to be their friends before would now disown them, that their family would disown them, that they would face bigotry and discrimination and homophobia? Are those not legitimate reasons why if someone comes out as homosexual in Georgia that they might be inclined to not do the same things that they used to do? Is that so unreasonable to believe? No, Terrell says. Can't possibly be that. They change because they're gay. And it continues. It continues. The bullshit continues. At 12 minutes and 18 seconds into the video, this is what Terrell says. I think the sad part about all of this is the fact that homosexuality has become what rock was for like in the 1950s and 60s. Back when society was really calm, was really, really calm and complacent in where they were. So apparently Terrell isn't just ignorant on the topic of homosexuality, sexual orientation, and gender identity, but he also seems to be completely ignorant about U.S. history. The 1950s were calm and complacent? The fuck? I mean, I know the education system in Georgia is not, let's just say it's not quite up to par. But what the fuck is Terrell talking about? The 1950s and 60s in American history saw the greatest and biggest social upheavals since the American Civil War in the 1860s. Just think about everything that happened in the 1950s and 60s. I can't believe he really said this. The aftermath of World War II, our Cold War with Russia, and our skirmishes all over the planet. I mean, how many military interventions were there? We're talking about uh, the Korean War, I think was in the 1950s. Um, Patrice Lumumba, the CIA was involved in that in the African nation independence movements in the 1950s. We had military interventions in Iraq with Mossadegh. I mean, there were so many different military interventions all over the world in the aftermath of World War II as a result of the Cold War. We had the rise of McCarthyism. You don't remember the Senate commissions on patriotism from McCarthy? The civil rights movement started in the 1950s and 60s in both the North and the South. Brown versus Board of Education was decided, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in 1954. Yeah, it was 1954 because it was the 50th anniversary when I was in high school in 2004. So Brown versus Board of Education was decided in the 1950s. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, boycotts, buscots, protests, marches, lunch counter sit-ins. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King both came to prominence and were assassinated in the 1950s and 60s. JFK was assassinated in the 1960s. The women's rights movement was just starting in the 1960s. And all of this was in the space of from 1950 to 1970 in a 20-year period. So it's obvious that Terrell doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But let's continue. And again, this is what Terrell says. I'm quoting him verbatim. But rock was so different and new that it attracted the younger generation, and everybody was into, and they all did it. Even some of them who didn't have any reasoning of doing it. That's what homosexuality is like in the early 2000s. Homosexuality has turned into the rock and roll of our generation. It's like everybody's doing it, therefore you need to be doing it, even if you're not legit about it. I could probably stop and just turn the goddamn tape off right now. I mean, I'm already at almost an hour trudging through all this bullshit. But no, I'm gonna keep on going because this needs to be said. First, homosexuality is as popular as fucking rock and roll? Based on what statistics? What I mean, did this motherfucker chew some bazooka gum and it just came, these statistics came on the rapper? Did he drink a Snapple and on the Snapple facts he found out that homosexuality is as popular as rock and roll? Based on what? Take a look at the statistical variance of sexuality and gender identity in America, and what will you find? Only 5%, 5% or less of the American population can be deemed something other than either heterosexual or something something other than strictly male or female. So 95% of the American population is heterosexual and defines themselves as either strictly male or strictly female. Transgender, transsexual, lesbian, gay, queer, bisexual, transgendered, polysexual, pansexual. These people only account for 5% or less of the American population. So 5% really makes you popular nowadays, huh? According to Terrell. And of course, he said it, uh, so it must be true. He's wrong. And he's confused. And here's why he's confused. The movement, the gay rights movement, has become more popular. Homosexuality has not come, I mean, based on the evidence and the statistics, homosexuality has not become more popular at all. And a movement to fight for your constitutional rights doesn't make something popular. The gay rights movement is popular. But that doesn't mean homosexuality is popular. It just means that ending unjustified discrimination against homosexuals and LGBT people in general has become more popular. That's all it means. But no, Terrell's digging in, man. He's he's playing blackjack and he's telling the dealer to hit me. Hit me. He has more for us. This is what he says. Again, quoting verbatim. It's like everybody's doing it. Therefore, you need to be doing it, even if you're not legit about it. And the only way you can think about fitting in is because you're not actually gay yourself, and you don't know how a gay person is supposed to act. You just take the stereotypes of gay people and you apply it to yourself. If you really meet someone who's genuinely gay, they don't go around overly flaunting that they're gay. They're just a normal fucking person, because that's all gay people are. Normal people who just happen to have a different sexual orientation than you, or most people of their gender. That's all the fuck they are. But you can tell the ones who are really overly gay. And I'm not saying just because you're stereotypically gay doesn't make you gay. What? That's exactly what the fuck you're saying. You just said it. I mean, do I have to repeat it? Let's go. Let's go back to find it. This is what he says. If you really meet someone who's genuinely gay, they don't go around overly flaunting that they're gay. But then he says, and I'm not saying just because you're stereotypically gay that doesn't make you gay. Yeah, that is what you just said, buddy. He continues. I'm just saying you types are the most annoying with it because half of you aren't actually gay. And the ones who are, you have a group of people who have completely undermined the shit out of your sexuality. I'm sorry, they have. What statistics does he have to support the notion that I'm just saying you types are the most annoying with it because half of you aren't actually gay? What evidence does he have that flamboyant homosexuals aren't really homosexuals? Doesn't have any evidence of that at all. He just some bullshit that he came up with. What the hell is he talking about? Like I said, first, he's contradicting himself because that's clearly what he just said. He tells us that genuinely gay people don't go around flaunting that they're gay, correct? So this must mean that flamboyant homosexuals are non-genuine gay people, correct? I mean, that's what he just said. If you're genuinely gay, you don't flaunt that you're gay. Therefore, if you're flamboyant and you're flaunting that you're gay, then you must not genuinely be gay. He just spent several minutes ranting about how homosexuality has become a fad and about how people who aren't really gay are adopting homosexual stereotypes. So he did, in fact, just say that stereotypically gay people aren't really gay. It's exactly what he just said. I literally just quoted him saying it. He implies that stereotypically gay people, and for Terrell, I guess stereotypically gay means flamboyantly gay. Gay people aren't genuinely gay because genuine gay people don't flaunt that they're gay. So first, he contradicts himself. Second, imagine if Terrell was talking about heterosexual people. Could you imagine how that conversation would go? Would it make any sense to talk about stereotypically heterosexual people? Like, what the hell does that even mean? There is no such thing as a stereotypically heterosexual person. Why? Because heterosexuality is seen as the social and sexual and societal norm. A norm, by definition, can't be a stereotype. Heterosexuality is the measuring stick of normality, of sexual normality. So you can't insult someone by saying they're acting stereotypically heterosexual. It just doesn't fucking make sense. Third, how can a group of people have their sexuality undermined? I mean, Terrell really must not have thought about this before he said all of the shit he said in this video. What does that mean? What does it even mean for a group of people to have their sexuality and sexual orientation undermined? You can't undermine a group's or a person's sexuality or sexual orientation. Sexuality isn't something that can be undermined. It doesn't work like that. And this goes back to my previous point. Imagine if I said this about heterosexual people. If I singled out some heterosexuals and then said that they're acting heterosexual even though they're not heterosexual, and therefore this undermines heterosexual people's sexuality. You'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about, Uber? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It wouldn't make any sense because that's the norm. And even if, let's just assume for the sake of argument that he's right. that sexuality can be undermined, and that the sexuality of homosexuals is being undermined by people pretending to be gay even though they're not. Would that make real homosexuals any less homosexual? Fucking no, of course it wouldn't. Of course it wouldn't make them real homosexuals any less homosexual. And would that justify bigotry, homophobia, discrimination? No, of course it wouldn't. Would that some even if people who weren't gay were pretending to be gay, even if that was true, and there's no evidence that it is true, but even if it was true, would that somehow take away from the legitimacy of the gay rights movement? No, of course it wouldn't. Now let's get to Terrell's fifth retarded problem with gay people. And this is 4 minutes and 7 seconds into the video. This is what Terrell says. And that's the other fucking problem. Hold on, let me go back. Try that again. And that's the other fucking thing that gets on my nerves. When gay people like to act like their struggle is the same as racism struggle. It is nowhere fucking close, okay? That's just a fact. What gay people go through is nowhere fucking close to what we went through in terms of racism. And I'm not the guy to pull out the race card. You know me. If you watch my videos, you know what kind of person I am. I hate bringing up the race card. But for the love of God, if I fucking hear that shit again, where it's like, oh, our struggle is the same as your struggle. We're just fighting for our rights. I'm like, oh yes, you're fighting for your right to wear pink shirts at McDonald's, even though that's not a right you need to have because you're at a job and you should wear the same fucking uniform as everybody else. Because obviously you've been getting lynched for years, nigger. Right? Right? No. Please get the fuck out of here with that. At this point, I'm convinced that Terrell's a bigot. I'm sorry. I just gotta come out and say that. I've been alluding to it all along, but this shit takes the cake. Obviously. I mean, I just don't see how anybody can say this seriously and with a straight face. I mean, the evidence is mounting for his bigotry. This is the only explanation for why someone would say something so ridiculous like this. First of all, the gay rights movement in America, and to a certain extent internationally, is about pink shirts at McDonald's? Really? That's what the fuck he believes? I mean, is that what he really just said? No, dumbass. The gay rights movement is about the constitutional right to marry. How many courts are overturning these gay marriage bans? Ever since DOMA was overturned, or at least specific sections of DOMA being the Defense of Marriage Act, which was passed in 1996, outlawing, banning homosexual marriage. Ever since the Supreme Court just overturned that last year, how many state gay marriage bans have been going down the shitter? Because at this point, you can't justify the discrimination anymore. So no, Terrell, it's not about fucking pink shirts at McDonald's. It's about employment discrimination. That's legal in 33 states, yes. When the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, it didn't include sexual orientation. It included things like race, religion, ethnicity, gender, but society hadn't progressed to the point where we were talking about sexual orientation. So the Civil Rights Act, the Federal Civil Rights Act, actually doesn't include sexual orientation. So in 33 states, it's actually legal to discriminate against homosexuals. You can engage in employment discrimination. Now, some states have outlawed it, but in 33 states, it's completely legal. You can, if you have a homosexual person, you can deny them employment. If they're lesbian, transsexual, transgender, you can deny them employment because of who they are. It's about that, Terrell. It's about the Arizona bill that was just passed in the Arizona legislature, even though it was vetoed by Governor Jan Brewer, who's a nutcase, but at least she did that right. It's about that. A bill passed in the Arizona state legislature by both houses of the Arizona state legislature, which basically made it legal to not just engage in employment discrimination against LGBT people, but discrimination in general against LGBT people. The bill basically said if homosexuality goes against your religious beliefs, you can turn away homosexuals. That means in hotels, hospitals, all you have to do is say, hey man, being gay, gay people, that violates my religious beliefs, so I can turn them away. But forget about this. We're talking about pink shirts, Terrell says. And this is an important point that needs to be made because a lot of people don't understand this. Again, a lot of people don't understand their own history or their own constitution. Most people assume that if you have a private business, you can simply turn away whoever you want. But in America, that's not true. That's why the Civil Rights Act was passed. The Civil Rights Act was passed to get rid of segregation in the South and to get rid of Jim Crow. That's why it was passed. Because black people would try to get booked into a hotel and the people would turn them away because they were black. Or they would try to go to a store and buy something at a store and they would be turned away because they were black. The Civil Rights Act outlaws that. So no, private businesses who accommodate the public, hotels, stores, uh, any sort of business that engages in public accommodation, they can't turn away people simply because they're African American. You cannot do that. That's just the way it is in America. A lot of people don't realize this. Now, if you have a private company, a private membership, if you have a private company that also has a private membership, you can turn away whoever the fuck you want to turn away. That's why the KKK, as a private organization with private membership, can turn away blacks. They don't accommodate the public in any way. They have a private organization with private membership. But if you're a private business but you accommodate the public, then you can't discriminate. You can't turn away a black person because they're black. For example, if you have a bakery and a black person comes in, even if you own the bakery, you can't turn away the person because they're black. That's what the Civil Rights Act specifically bans and outlaws. Just wanted to make that point. Second, racial and ethnic struggles are pretty much exactly the same as the struggles of LGBT people. And I didn't put this in my notes because I'm just going to read directly my response to J-Man, which I wrote in the comment section of Terrell's video. So let me bring that up. I'm just going to quote directly what I wrote in the comment section in response to J-Man, who tried to make the same bullshit point. Racial struggles and struggles concerning LGBT people are the same. Both struggles deal with an oppressed minority being denied their fundamental civil rights guaranteed by the Constitution, and therefore deal with trying to use government institutions to eliminate unjustified discrimination against them. Your point would only make sense if there was some sort of contest between blacks and LGBT people to see who got discriminated against more. I mean, are you really trying to argue that racial struggles are somehow more important or are superior to the struggles of LGBT people? What? Discrimination against LGBT people isn't important because they haven't experienced enough discrimination? That's silly. You're missing the fundamental point of comparison because you're comparing things completely irrelevant to the issue. How much a group is discriminated against is completely irrelevant to the fact that said group is being discriminated against in some substantive way. Also, your perspective on this issue is extremely limited. For example, in Africa, Russia, China, i.e., in places where everybody's human rights aren't guaranteed, LGBT people can be killed, tortured, imprisoned for life with impunity. I guess those people haven't suffered enough. Their suffering is unimportant. Why? Because you're only concerned with LGBT people in America and Western Europe? Seriously, bro, take your spoiled Western world visor off and take a global perspective. Do some research on corrective rape in South Africa and then try to come at me with some bullshit like black people suffered more than LGBT people. My response? Who the hell cares? All suffering is important. All discrimination in any form which denies people their human rights is bad and should be eliminated. And because J-Man didn't get it the first time I said it, I had to respond again. Here's what I said. I'm getting the sense that you didn't even read what I wrote. In your last response, you wrote this: I am shocked that you believe that racial issues are equivalent to homosexual ones, or at least you are implying so. Yes, That's exactly what I'm saying, and I explained why. In my initial response, I wrote this. Racial struggles and struggles concerning LGBT people are the same. Both struggles deal with an oppressed minority being denied their fundamental civil rights guaranteed by the Constitution, and therefore deal with trying to use government institutions to eliminate unjustified discrimination against them. This is absolutely true. There's no way for you to dispute this. In the precise respect outlined above, racial struggles and the struggles of LGBT people are exactly the same. Now, in your last response, you wrote this. I think even taking into account those very unjust things that have happened and still are happening to homosexuals, they don't outweigh racial ones. First, why is this even relevant? Racial struggles and the struggles of LBGT people are similar in some ways, but they're also different in some ways. But the differences you're raising are irrelevant to the issue at hand, which is this. Both struggles are about attempting to eliminate unjustified discrimination that seeks to divest people of their civil rights in a national context and their human rights in a global context. This is why it is completely justified to say that the civil rights movement is similar to the LBGT movement. In this important fundamental respect, both movements are the same. Second, when did I ever say or imply that the struggle of LGBT people outweigh racial struggles? Indeed, this is what I wrote in my initial response to you. You are missing the fundamental point of comparison because you're comparing things completely irrelevant to the issue. How much a group is discriminated against is completely irrelevant to the fact that said group is being discriminated against in some substantive way. And then I went on to say this. In other words, racial oppression slash discrimination has been more systematic, more brutal, and sustained over a longer historical period of time than LBGT oppression. But who cares? It doesn't matter that racial and ethnic minorities have been oppressed more than LBGT people because all discrimination that seeks to take away the civil or human rights of a group of people is equally bad and should be eradicated. From my perspective, you're comparing things that are irrelevant. For example, how much racial and ethnic minorities have been oppressed versus how much LBGT people have been oppressed. While I'm comparing things that are relevant, discrimination against racial and ethnic minorities versus discrimination against LBGT people. That is to say, the only questions I care about are these. Are LBGT people being oppressed via unjustified discrimination? And should we stop it? Obviously, the answer to both questions are yes. That pretty much takes care of that point. So no, Terrell, you're absolutely wrong. Racial struggles were about denying people their civil rights, and the gay rights movement is about the same thing, denying people their rights. The degree or severity of discrimination is different, but that's irrelevant because the struggle is the same. Now, let's get to Terrell's final problem with homosexuals. This is what Terrell says, again, quoting verbatim. And it's like, fine. Oh, wait, this is 15 minutes and 10 seconds into the video. This is what he says. And it's like, fine. I can respect gay people. I can respect your sexual orientation. What I can't respect is you throwing it in my face all the time. Heterosexual people don't do that. We don't sit there and go, I'm fucking all these women because I'm a heterosexual guy. If we're talking about shit, that's whatever. If we're talking about fucking bitches and you can talk about fucking a dude. And we're not going to be like, and at that point, it's our problem because that's how a normal conversation would go in that situation. But this whole, I'm gay, you need to know it, and I need to show everybody that I'm gay is really annoying and condescending. And people don't like flashy motherfuckers in the first place. First, what the hell is Terrell talking about? What homosexual people are showing their homosexuality in his face? What homosexual people are shoving their homosexuality in his face? Who knows any homosexuals who come into a normal conversation and start talking about gay sex? I mean, do the gay people around Terrell just walk up to him and be like, yeah, I had gay sex last night? The fuck is he talking about? Plus, Terrell lives in fucking Georgia. I highly doubt that any homosexuals in Georgia walk up to random people and go, hey, I had gay sex last night. Furthermore, Terrell has already told us that he doesn't like overly gay homosexuals. So if any homosexual person acts flamboyant, then they're necessarily shoving their homosexuality in your face, right, Terrell? So according to Terrell, homosexuals can only act the way Terrell wants them to act, otherwise he'll just be fucking offended. What happened to their actions aren't harming me or aren't affecting me, so I'm not concerned. What happened to that? Which is the very first thing he stated at the beginning of the video. Look how quickly that reasonable point gets tossed out the window. Because according to Terrell, if you act stereotypically gay, that's not cool. You act the opposite of your gender, that's not cool. You act in ways that I don't like, that's not cool. In America, we have something called civil liberties, Terrell, which means you can do whatever the fuck you want if no one else is harmed or affected by your actions. Neither Terrell nor anybody else has the goddamn right to tell people how to act. If you don't like it, so fucking what? You tolerate it. This is America. That's what it means to live in a pluralistic society. Sometimes you'll have to put up with shit you don't want to put up with. But if people's actions aren't affecting you or harming you in any way, shut the fuck up. If a guy is acting too flamboyantly homosexual for you, turn your fucking head. You don't have to look at him. That's just the way it is. But of course, like I said, Terrell isn't stupid, just ignorant. Terrell realizes that he's not making any fucking sense. So he pretends to chastise heterosexuals too, because, gotta make it seem equal. This is what Terrell says. I don't like when women get overly slutty in public, so why the fuck would I like it when a gay dude does it? Or a stereotypically gay dude does it? Same thing. I don't like guys who overly take off their shirts and try to look overly manly in every situation they're in, so why would I like it when a gay girl tries to look overly manly, excuse me, overly manly in the situation? The shit is not appealing no matter what gender you are, no matter what sexuality you are. So if I'm not going to cut the heterosexual guys and girls for doing it, I'm definitely not going to cut the fucking gay guy and the gay chick any goddamn slack. To me, you're both people. You're both men and women, and you're both on bullshit. It's simply that. And gay people need to fucking stop acting like every time someone gets mad at them, it's just because they're gay. Again, Terrell's just saying some really fucking weird shit. First, again, you live in fucking Georgia, nigga. This isn't San Francisco. I can understand if this was like fucking San Francisco or fucking Portland, Oregon, but this nigga lives in the South, in fucking Georgia. Where does he see all of these overly masculine guys who always take off their shirts? The fuck does he see that? Who are all these women who are dressing slutty around Terrell? Where the fuck is he talking about? So, as a point of clarification, Terrell seems to have a problem with any man who he thinks is acting overly manly, any woman who's acting overly feminine, and any homosexuals who are acting overly homosexual. Does he hate fucking dogs for acting overly doggy? The fuck? You're not making any sense, bro. Second, and of course Terrell is in a position to say what counts as stereotypically homosexual, right? Because of course Terrell knows what stereotypical homosexuality is, right? And he must know for both heterosexuality and homosexuality. Who made Terrell the fucking arbiter of what counts as stereotypically homosexual or stereotypically heterosexual? Who made him the arbiter of that? All Terrell is doing is using homosexual stereotypes. And he's admitting he's doing it because he uses the phrase stereotypically homosexual over and over and over in the video. He's admitting that he's doing it. It's absolute bullshit. Everything Terrell has said in this video, except for his very first couple of sentences, are absolute bullshit. Why doesn't he ever talk about gay men who just act like men? Or lesbian women who just act like women? Because it's exactly as I stated before. Heterosexuality and heterosociality is predicated on rigid gender dichotomies. Men are supposed to act like men, and women are supposed to act like women. Thus, every problem that Terrell seems to have with homosexuals are only with homosexuals who seem to act the opposite of their gender. I've never heard any complaints about how heterosexual people are acting too much like heterosexuals. It's precisely because heterosexuality is the standard for normality and the standard for value that you can't possibly imagine someone saying that. It immediately sounds unreasonable to say, God damn it, I hate all these heterosexuals who are shoving their heterosexuality on me. Okay, you're heterosexual, we get it. Don't shove it down my throat. Imagine if I said that. You'd immediately be saying, what the fuck is he talking? That makes no fucking sense. I've only heard this complaint in relation to homosexual people. Here's Terrell's major problem. His problem is that homosexuals refuse to accept rigid heterosexual gender categories. And he never gives us a reason why it's annoying, why this is annoying or problematic or bad. He just assures us that this is the case. Of course it's a problem if men don't act like men. Of course it's a problem if women don't act like women. Why, Terrell? Why is that the case? Because you said so? Because the fucking people in Georgia say so? Because other people say so? You need actual reasons to believe why you believe what you believe. And I don't care about Terrell's opinions at this point. Honestly, Terrell, I don't give a fuck about your personal feelings or your opinions. I don't give a shit. No homosexual has ever harmed you by taking on traits of the opposite gender. Didn't you? And let me quote exactly how he started off his video. How Terrell started off his video. Let me quote this verbatim again directly. I don't understand the obsession with people being angry at people's life choices. I mean, granted, you don't have to agree with them. I'm just saying, what's the big deal with arguing against it? It's not hurting you in any way. How is he not contradicting himself? The whole fucking video was nothing but a 20-minute, incoherent, rambling fucking rant and screed about shit that doesn't affect him and shit that doesn't harm him and shit that he should not be concerned with. So in conclusion, Terrell's video was filled with just a bunch of bullshit, no evidence, poor reasoning, contradictions, factually inaccurate statements. And these were the problems with Terrell's societal discussion about homosexuality. These are all the problems I had. That's why people made a big deal about your fucking video, Terrell. And that's why you had to make a follow-up video explaining yourself. Because the initial video was bullshit. 100% absolute bullshit. In the fucking discussion. So if you stuck around and finished this hour and a half long video, I'm glad that you stuck around. And hopefully you enjoyed it and hopefully you learned something. So this was your boy Uber Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga. Just brought you another video with no frills, just the analysis. Peace and have a blessed day.